Dr. Raywat Deonandan is the epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa and joins me on the line. Doc, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
So, is this wise, opening bars right now?
Wow, that's a tough question. What we're seeing around the world is the new explosion of cases in places like the USA and Quebec are driven by bars and other social gatherings. So it doesn't seem like it's the wisest thing to be doing right now, but we're doing it, and so we have to do it carefully and with better planning and better responsibility.
Okay, responsibility and planning, those are not things I associate with going to a bar.
That's right. So the problem with bars, as we know, is where people go to be intimate with other people, particularly with strangers. And as we're drinking, we're being a little less responsible. It's a recipe for bad things to happen when it comes to pandemic control. And it hurts me to say that because I like bars as well. And as the economy opens up, these kinds of establishments are part of the opening up process. But it's a high-risk endeavor given the inability of people to behave appropriately in these settings. This is ultimately a situation of incentivizing good behavior and disincentivizing bad behavior. And bars have a long history of incentivizing bad behavior.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, in the before times, if you'd go to a bar, I mean, how often would you see bad behavior? I mean, depending on what bar you go to, it's fairly regular. You know, that's exactly what happens in bars. Do I make too much of a link here about the potential risk to what kind of plan we have for school in September from the bars opening shortly in Ontario?
It's a good point to make. And I will say, though, that now is the time to be playing around with these things while the summer hours are before us and while the heat is good and where people can step outside as a buffer. So now is the time to try new things with the caveat that we must rush back indoors if things go poorly. The same goes with trying out new programs for children. We can try them out in the summer months so that we know how to do it better in the fall. I do want to say, though, that Sweden, which is famous for its lackadaisical approach, had only a handful of rules for its citizens, and one of those rules was no standing at bars. So even they understood that bars were going to be a problem.
So in terms of these rules about, outside, inside, and all these other rules, I mean, does that strike you as workable from a viral load point of view?
Good question. And I have faith that we have the resources and the ability to deploy the appropriate public health measures. I don't have a lot of faith in people to follow those measures. Right, so most of our issues here are addressable with sufficient money and resources, like the school situation. As we noted, invest several $100 million, and we can probably do this well. The same goes with bars. If we can limit the number of people, if we can put up plexiglass barriers, if we can ensure that no one's standing up, if we can make sure that the bathrooms are well maintained and have low throughput of individuals, we can do this well. But it takes resources, oversight, and management acumen.
Doc, one last question on kids, because I can't seem to get a straight answer on this. Seems like the science moves every day or two about whether or not kids are super spreaders, or what's the evidence actually tell us about the risks of kids going back to school and then spreading the virus widely amongst older people?
So that is the trillion-dollar question. So the data seems to be all over the place right now. Some studies say that they're no different from adults. Some say that they're slightly less likely to get it and to spread it, which really doesn't matter. So let's say they are less likely to get it and spread it. Children also, though, have much higher rates of interacting with other people. A child sees a lot more different people than an adult will. So it kind of washes out. Even if they're less likely to get it and spread it, they're more likely to encounter more people, and so the number of infections they cause will be roughly the same. So controlling the ability of children to serve as vectors for this disease is of paramount concern right now.
What do you expect will happen come September?
I think we're going to open up full time. And I like that idea, assuming the caseload is low in the community, because it has to match what happens in the work world. You can't have people going back to work and having no childcare opportunities for them. In absence of a school option, people pay for daycare, and suddenly you've got more opportunities for exposure of children and less oversight. I'd rather have them all in the same place where we can watch them carefully and care for them better.
You support the cohort idea, or should we just put them back into the classes, 28 per classroom as it sort of was before, in the before times?
Well, we can't go back to the before times. I think young children should be in school 5 days a week, but they should be much smaller classroom sizes and a lot of public health investments in the infrastructure. So that means spending an enormous amount of money to make it safe. But that's good news, right? We can spend our way out of this, which is better than having to wait for science to cure disease. I'd rather have that option.
Doc, I appreciate your perspective. Thank you so much for spending some time with us today.
Thank you.
That is Dr. Raywat Deonandan, who is an epidemiologist at the University of Ottawa.